Well, what a roller coaster that was. I was fully expected to be on here giving out that we had thrown it all away, but what injury time that was. That was truly sensational to go through it all. Somehow we have Gally. Gally, how are you, pal?
Evening. Oh, good night. What time is it? What time are you now?
Where do we even start on this? Summarize that up.
Yeah, look, let's get the number one thing out of the way is that we're absolutely delighted to get 3 points. Regardless, look, we'll get on into the game and how we've played and stuff like that. But I think after the last couple of weeks, I think we're, plenty of positivity around Oriel, plenty of, although performances weren't sensational, we to play a Cork City team at home, albeit a Liam Buckley kind of, I don't know about rejuvenated, I don't know about that, but it's always a danger. We worried about it last week, but we still expected to win, but we probably expected to play better. But I mean, if we're talking about just the result, and the finish to the game, that's what football is. I mean, that's in a nutshell. That's what it to have the extra 8 minutes to have it, as John Flanagan put it in the on the commentary with Adrian Taff, an onslaught for the last 5 or 6 minutes of the match of the normal 90, and then to have that extra 8 minutes. I mean, for Cork fans, it must have been the fastest 8 minutes they've ever had in football. Like, I mean, that it just must have been absolutely crazy. I haven't seen. I don't know. I could be dreaming, but I'm nearly sure your camera shook. When the winner went in. I'm not really sure, but if it didn't shake, it definitely had that aura about it that it was just absolutely rocking. And in fairness,
the shed just took out.
Just seemed to take off.
Yeah,
and it was like. Do you know what it might remind me of? And I don't know if it's just the night that's in it. The night we played Cork in 2014, and Garth's goal, and there's that element of a goal and that kind of that euphoric kind of, I don't know if it's euphoric that they've done it or just thank God we've done it. Thank God we've put that to bed. We've played again. We've played at a depleted squad. Numerically with the red cards, and we've, as Pingu put it in the chat, we have smashed and grabbed it. It feels like an unbelievable win. If we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the performance, we will. But I mean, as an absolute spectacle for the last, like Frank puts it, the last 10, 11 minutes, it's up there with anything of the last couple of seasons, because I know, and the thing about it is, it's only Cork. It's not like it's Rovers. But I mean, I think the momentum now that the games the lads have had over the last couple of weeks, and probably some disappointing performance, I think we've probably warranted a finish to a game like that. I mean, and that's something we've been missing, we don't want to smash and grab every week, but I mean, if you're going to get them like that in Oriel, just before you've got a double week next week of matches, yeah, brilliant. I mean, look, like rocking. I mean, like you can probably, if they haven't kicked them out of the stadium yet, I mean, the pubs, I'm sure Kennedy's and the Big House and the Wee House and Courtney's, they're all flat out now going on the way down the town tonight. But yeah, brilliant. Like, and that's what football is, That's what they're the energy to want to get. It's harsh on Cork, absolutely, but tough. Do you know what I mean? That's sport.
I think that's exactly what Skip said post match with us there. He literally just said, like, that's why you play football.
Yeah,
it's for moments like this. If you can enjoy the highs as well, because you'll get lows. When he said traveling back from Cork previously, you having a real flat performance to this.
Yeah,
it's night and day the difference. And it's. Sometimes you search for a bit of an identity for a team, but like now we've seen LA come back against Strada, LA come back here against Cork, and I know you could say probably on paper these are teams we should be beating or whatever, but it's nice to just get there and get these things over the line. When I seen 8 minutes come up, I went, oh please, because we'll get in talk about the match, but I just felt that at times we were very flat or just lacked a bit of creativity tonight. I felt it was a big loss. You could really tell we missed Robbie Benson or a Greg Sloggett tonight. Just someone just to drive right at them. We were missing that. I thought when Dickie Kelly came on and Elliot actually, gave the line something, but I just literally thought Skip had thrown the kitchen sink at it, because we had Elliot, we'd Hubin, we'd Martin, we still had O'Kane, you know, he literally just went, everybody just pile it in, like, but
a forward, and you know, anybody who was signed as a forward player was on the pitch tonight at one stage.
exactly.
Everybody was throwing, you know,
Yeah. Now, if anyone can actually get their composure tonight to pick a man of the match, fair play to you, because I haven't even thought about it till now. Get your suggestions in for man of the match. But yeah, look, an absolute roller coaster.
Yeah, like you said, because the game was flat, like, and you know, regardless, I said it last week as well. Like Cork, for all intents and purposes, they're a first division team. They still are, in my opinion. I don't think they're anywhere at the level. You know, look, UCD will always be that kind of benchmark for low web teams in the league. But Flano's hit the nail on the head. It is. That's what it's just. It's attack minded. Just at the end, so let's empty the bench. And they literally emptied the bench in about, we were talking about the red card and the tackle, but let's get everybody off. Anybody who can strike a ball in a forward momentum, you're playing, you're on. And look, sometimes it takes nights like that. Look, they've gotten the red cards. You know, I think we had a lot of momentum in the last couple of minutes. But if you talk just about the game, like you had said, you know, flat, yeah, I mean, it just seemed very slow, very kind of, it was like we were going through the motions. It was like a kind of, you know, like, and even when Cork went 1-0 up, were we surprised? Probably not. I mean, you know, Olalabi had a good run. It's poor from the lads. He's gone in behind Williams. He's kind of he's robbed his pocket there, and you know, it's a decent passing. But Williams for me looked a little bit slow. Now, you know, the Cork strikers, you know, super. His pace is sensational, but I thought Williams had a really rough night against him. Lethargic is definitely the word I'm looking for there, Flano. Yeah, absolutely lethargic. You think they played 2 games on the same day, but yeah, it just seemed a little bit like it was waiting for something to kick it off, and even the goal for Cork didn't kick it off at all. It took really until those last few minutes. I mean, we could probably make an hour-long podcast from the 82nd minute, 83rd minute on, because even when Cork scored, like Flano said in comment, you know, it wasn't really until the 83rd, 84th minute that we really had that momentum. We really went for it, and like you know, we played some good football. I thought Ryan O'Kane had you know some fantastic possessions of passes to play. Crosses, I thought Archie Davis had some decent balls in, some wayward as well. You know, Keith Ward started, you know, probably not really in the game as much as you like, but then, like you had said, the game is probably needing the likes of a Greg Sloggett or Robbie Benson.
Yeah.
You know, in one way you're absolutely delighted, but if we're going to talk about the game itself, they have to play better. They got to play better. I mean, look, it's great to get finishes like that, but as a whole game, you know, Cork are shocking. Cork are really poor. Like, you know, it's you know they've done what they've done what Buckley set them out to do, but they'll feel robbed going home. It's a long old spin, you know, after a game like that. But you know, I just think again we got to look at our performance as a whole. I think there's something just not right. There's something just missing. But I mean, for the night that's in it, I'd love to overlook that bit that's missing. But you know, it is glaringly obvious that we're just not firing on all cylinders right across the board. And yeah, so I'm just after getting the shock in my life there. We've 2 pop-ups on the screen. Hold on a minute. I think we'll introduce our first guest, or we bring the 2 of them on at one time, Chris, will we?
Yeah. So bring everyone on.
We'll bring the 2 on. Yeah. So we're going to bring in, we won't mention the podcast this one is on, but you'll know when we pop them up. Reggie, how are we? And we're going to bring back a fan favourite of the Town End podcast we haven't seen in a couple of weeks as well. Donald Hanks. This is nice having 4 screens open, boys.
I've only got 5 minutes. I'm just coming up for like the length of injury time, and then I'm leaving. That's all I'm doing. I'm just going to come on for 10 minutes of chaos and then leave.
Wreak havoc for 5 minutes, pal, and off you come. Look, if your time is tight, Donald, we'll come to you first. How do you sum up that match?
You can sum up like the 90 minutes of like up until injury time as some of the worst football I've ever seen in my life. It was awful, and then 10 minutes of just bedlam. The podcast would have been completely different if if Hooven hadn't scored. Like obviously losing is one thing, drawing 1-1, winning, Jesus, it was amazing. But it was. I just want to point something. I don't know. I didn't hear anything that you said before, and I'm not going to hear anything after I leave. when the and sorry, James, I'll let you speak in a second. When the Cork player got sent off for 2 yellow cards.
Yes.
The referee was coming up to him, and he was trying to get him to turn around to see the number on his jersey.
I was back.
Yeah, and so the Cork player was just like turning around, like the old school thing of like, no, if you can't see my number, you can't tell me it's the second yellow. I think that is just proper old school. That is, but no, it was an amazing finish to the game. But up until that last 10 minutes, whoa, it was woeful. And you know, a more sober line of thinking tomorrow might, you know, you're like, Jesus, that wasn't good. But beating Startup FC in injury time is pretty good, I think.
James, we've had many classic finishes in Oriel Park down through the years. Where does that one rate?
Yeah, it's up there. Like, I mean, if you just erase the previous 90 minutes, that was 8 minutes of injury time. But it massively changes the mood. It's like, look, we were saying it in recent weeks. I don't think anyone is trying to kid ourselves that there's still a lot of work to be done with regards to the team, but it is 4 wins from 4. There's a bit of momentum there. Look, is it perfect? No, but I mean, you can't buy that tonight. Like, that's one of the most memorable nights I can remember in Oriel for long and many a year, you know. So, you know, long may they continue. Probably not good for all our tickers, and certainly if you're writing match reports and rewriting match reports, definitely not good. But look, they're good problems to have.
I got
James,
I got just be saying match reports. I got a text that completely changes. Like Donald said, that completely changes the line of questions for the podcast. Like any kind of we don't script anything, but any kind of half script we had kind of went out the window. So it's nice to have that little bit of positivity straight out the gate as we go on.
James, just thinking, you know, we mentioned before that each win is a goal, and, you know, it's this team growing in confidence. To go late against Drogheda and to go late here again and come away with winners, not just draws. Like, what does that say at the moment for what these players will give from Skip? And considering we're still missing 2 or 3 big players in there, what do you think that does for this team?
Yeah, well, look, it shows spirit, and that's something that was definitely questioned. You know, I think fitness was questioned, not necessarily by you guys or necessarily by me, but in general, I think things like that were questioned. They've shown an ability to go to the well now. I mean, if you look at even, it's mad. It's not just tonight. Like, we've had 4 stoppage time goals now in our last 4 games when you factor in John Martin's against Drogheda and obviously Ryan O'Kane's against UCD, and even you go back to last week, Wardy's in Sligo was okay. It wasn't stoppage time, but it was late enough. And even probably Rehan Tulloch's against Shelburne before that. So, yeah, look, as I say, it's not perfect, but there's a quality in that too, scoring late, you know, and we'd probably lost it for a while. You know, as much as that was enjoyable tonight, in the end, you'd prefer. I'd love to be next pod. I'm talking about it was a 3-0 done and dusted at halftime sort of game, but look, it does show a quality too, and it does show a togetherness, and that, like, I mean, if that doesn't bring you together as a group, I mean, nothing will. Like, you know, like, and look, you're not trying to completely paper over cracks, because obviously you need to be better than that, because look, Derry should be better than that come Monday, and certainly with one eye on Europe and that, you need to improve. But it's amazing, like, to be able to do that, and yeah, if it brings the group together, happy days.
Donald, I'm just thinking, like, would it be fair to say it wasn't a match for the tacticians out there? Because I don't think there was another option that Skip had left on the bench. You know, we've mentioned already, literally through the kitchen sink. Gally said, if you were a forward player, you got on tonight. Like, there was Dickie Kelly, there was Elliott, Hooban, Ryan O'Kane on the other side. Just anyone who had attacker beside their name just got on tonight.
I played up front in the under-9s. He thought he might have given me a 5-minute run out towards the end as well, you know. Yeah. So like, this is one of the things, right? If we don't get the goals at the end, you look back at everything that happened beforehand, and we've done this a few times before, where like Skip throws on subs, and it's really, really hard to figure out what we're doing, what the new formation is after we've, changed it up. Like we 3 at the back, then 2 in midfield, then 3 in front, and I couldn't figure it out. Like, and it's worked because we've gotten the result. But just when it was happening, I was like, well, I wasn't asking anybody around me because nobody else around me would have been able to figure it out either. But just in my head, being like, where is everybody playing? I just could not figure it out. And again, it's completely changed now because of the goal at the end. But you would have definitely had a completely different opinion of that game as a whole, and what we did in that game or what we didn't do in that game. And look, you get your reward for taking chances by throwing all those players on. I wasn't playing it today. Oh, Jesus Christ.
He was.
They've stopped me from playing. They won't let me play it anymore. But yeah, there was a lot of head scratching things like throughout the game. And the one good thing for like the boys that work for Gav or whoever it's going to be, the highlights should be pretty easy to cut together. You just cut the first 90-something minutes off and just let the rest play. There's your highlights package done. Should be an easy job for them. But yeah, there was a few things that were confusing to me as it was happening, but they won, so I guess it all worked out.
James, I suppose if we try to put some sort of chronological order to what we've seen here tonight, like a relatively tentative start by both squads, you could say, kind of half chances to start over. Jimmy Corcoran with a save, tipped over, I think, was it Wardy earlier on. But Owolabi's goal, like, would you say it was a bit of naivety from William to just kind of not be on, a little bit tighter, if you know what I mean, to Owolabi, just to give him that space to run into? What would you put that down to? Like, were we too high, or were we just caught ball watching?
It's probably a combination of a few things. Like I felt in recent weeks, I don't think we're getting that protection of the back four. I think that player's still missing. I can see, obviously, Conor Malley's been playing in there, and at times, like, some of his balls tonight were brilliant. You can see why he's sort of in there in possession, but out of possession, I don't think we've a ball winner in there. Someone is going to break it up. And then, yeah, like a slight bit of naivety, because we do struggle against pace at times. I think even you go back to the previous week, Hartman, I think, was, ripping us apart at times, and fortunately had to go off at halftime from our point of view. So, yeah, so maybe you don't play as high a line against a player with we all know what Owolabi can do. He scored against us before for Finn Harp. So it was a bit soft of a goal to give away, and it just looked at times one ball over the top, and we were vulnerable, and that goes back to some of the problems we had sort of last season as well.
Yeah, Donald, I know you're tight for time. We'll give you one last word, just to G up the lads before the Derry match. If you take, I suppose, some sort of learnings from tonight, like what do we need to do better, and what are we excelling at right now?
Well, I think there's, James was just saying there, there's a problem position of in front of the back four. I think that's a big issue. I know we had problems before trying to progress possession through the middle of the field. Like Alfie Lewis was playing there and was getting caught constantly. Now Malley hasn't gotten caught as much, but I still don't think that's a solution. So hopefully, if Doyle is fit for more than 10 minutes, he can play a big part in the games coming down the road. But the thing that we can take from it is that they obviously aren't going to give up at any stage. Like, there's a decent amount of fight in them, which is like a minimum that we expect from a Dundalk team. And for the amount of abuse that the team were getting for 90 minutes from the stand, it was all made up for with just the effort that was put in at the end. So they'll fight, and they should give their all every single time they're on the pitch. So they should always have a chance, and especially if they throw on 14 different attackers before the end, they should be able to come up with some sort of goal. So I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna play the first 90 minutes of this for Ben to see if he can go to sleep, because not really much is going on. But let's just see if that doesn't work, I'll tell him the story of the game.
Are you throwing your hat in the ring for man of the match before you go?
I don't deserve it. No, I'm not man of the match.
The under-9s game in the
I was annoyed for 90 minutes. I don't really deserve to win any trophies. I don't want it to be about me, lads. Like I'll no, like I just go with, I'm just going to say Patrick Hooven because he won the game. There you go.
Perfect. We're also delighted that even with the new arrival, you're still getting to watch some sort of football. So fair play.
Yeah, I'm not going to change. I'm still a terrible person who's left his wife downstairs with his son. So I'm going to go. Go
before you're divorced.
Cheers,
Donald. Cheers, Donald. Cheers, Donald. Gally, like we kind of talked through the first goal ourselves just before James come on, but like after that, you're talking. You know, there's a big chance for Alfie Lewis save down. Corcoran saves it down at his near post, and then Hooben's one cracked off the crossbar. Did you feel though that there was a lack of intensity kind of to back those chances up? Like bar those two, we'd only one shot on target in that whole first half.
It's not anything that we're not used to. That's been happening all season. We seem to be like, even if you take the chances out of it tonight, we seem to have this, I don't know what it's not an attitude. It's just this kind of way of, we're going to try and pass our way into through everything. Sometimes it just calls for Route 1 football. Now, Ryan O'Kane was very direct tonight, I thought, when he got the ball. You know, really direct, doing exactly what he should be doing, running at players, you know, turning them inside out, getting crosses in. And Archie Davis as well, a couple of good passes and crosses down the right for Ryan. But we've been guilty of that all season. You know, the last, I know this is going to be this is probably what we're going to call the podcast, the last 10 minutes. That last 10 minutes is as intense as we've gotten all season. And look what happens, regardless of how many's left on the field for Cork. We got at them, and there was enough for them to get annoyed with us, get the tackles in, get sent off, feel frustrated, you know. But we need that all the time. Now, we don't need that level from 90 minutes, you know, from minute 1 for 45 in the first half and 46 to 90 in the second half. But you got to have that little bit in you that, you know, the Dogs seem to play with this idea of, right, we're set out a certain way, and there's not that there's no plan B, but we can't seem to find another way to do it. So, like, we go. I keep going back to the Shelbourne game where Tulloch could just absolutely hammer Andrew Quinn down the right flank the whole time, the left flank, sorry. And when he did get inside and cut inside, he gets a chance on goal and he scores. So little things like that are going to benefit Dundalk going forward. But the intensity has to come from the sideline. It's got to come from, you know, you need that real sluggish, that Benson in midfield to drive that. I think, don't get me wrong, Paul Doyle, when he comes on, is excellent. Keith Ward can be a top player, but there doesn't seem to be that, you know, that player that's really going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. You know, you forget Andy Boyle as well is missing. But you know, Pat Hooben is normally, you know, as he's a club captain, he's the man to look for. But at the same time, you got to get him the ball. You got to get him involved in the game. You know, he's Johnny on the spot tonight. You know, come as Flano said in the commentary, come with the man, come with the all. But that intensity got them where with that result tonight. That kind of extra level for those last, they're probably talking 16, 17 minutes really. By the time they've added on the extra bit. But that's what you need all the time. And that's Dundalk, they literally haven't done that all season, because we've played against how many games we played this season where we were playing against 10 men and nothing changed. You know, the game didn't get any better. We didn't play any better. We didn't look like we had an extra man. And tonight we did. And that's, you know, that's what they've got to show, albeit against 11 every week. You know, in Oriel Park, you know, the crowd should be the 12th man. You know, it was a little bit lax up until the 83rd, 84th minute. But that intensity, like you say, we've lacked it big time this season. And it just goes to show when it's there, that's what you get. They're the results you get. You know, like James had said, those nights are very few and far between. It's a long time since you've heard that roar at the end of a game in Oriel Park.
Yeah.
And you're hoping now that, I don't want to give them the kiss of death, you're hoping they can kick that into next week with your Derry and your Bows. But, as tonight is a spectacle, those last 10 minutes are probably right up there with anything that will do the whole season.
James, just looking back in the first half, do you think, were we missing something there? Like we mentioned, a Greg Sloggett and Robbie Benson, how pivotal they've been to this team over the past while as well. Like, did you think we missed that creative element from somebody? Two best chances, you'd say, came via Ryan O'Kane's side. And is that working, playing Ryan out on the right, or would you prefer to see him back on the left, I suppose?
I think he can do it both sides. We probably know him better on the left, but it's just not coming from enough avenues at the moment in terms of Ryan was a threat tonight from open play, but outside of that, you had very little. Like, we all know what Robbie Benson can do in terms of, be it creativity and goal threat. That's obviously a miss. There's no doubt Sloggett's energy in there is missed. But yeah, like, I think Rehan Tulloch's found it difficult in recent weeks. I don't want to focus on a negative, but like, at the end of the day, I think we all know we've one of the top strikers in the division, and he showed it again tonight. But look, you could have Erling Haaland in the team, and it doesn't matter if you can't get him the ball. Like, and you need to feed the beast, for want of a better word, and we're not doing enough of that at the moment. And look, I would have ran through stats from our first series of games, and we were right down the bottom basically in every category when it comes to like true balls, that touches in the box, accurate crosses, you name it. It was poor. Now, look, probably address that to a certain extent. Again, I'm not going to say it's perfect yet, but we need to find some way to get more service to Pat, because we all know he knows where the net is, and look, I know he's missed a bit this season, but he's too good a player to just have 3 goals this season. He really is, and he showed it tonight. Like, I think there's many a player with his goal at the end, and I know I'm skipping ahead, but like, he, I think many players would have just got that and maybe trashed at it or something, like the composure to take the touch, and he done what great players do. They almost make it look like it's happening in slow motion, when there's pandemonium around them, and we're a different team. Look, I think we all know that with him in it, but we need to find a way to get the best out of him as well, because he's almost our most creative player at times as well. But we need to find the service from somewhere, and it's difficult to see where that comes from, because as much as we do have a sort of lengthy injury list, and maybe Rehan's on it tonight as well, there's most of the players to come back. I don't know if they're players that got, like, with all due respect to Andy Boyle, Louis Ansley, and players like that, they're not ones that are going to unlock a defence for you. So, look, July is a few weeks away and months away yet, but maybe that's what we need. In terms of someone who can play in that role and make things happen. I think there was a lad released by Wickham this week that I think most fans would love to see.
That was going to be my next question. Just when you started mentioning July, I was like, Reggie, you got to be in the know. What's any word on the ground? Somebody's got to be looking from over here. I mean, you don't really see. There's Gary Marmy just in it. You don't envisage him. If we're talking about, and I know we're going off track here, we're getting very excited that Darren Hall has been released, but if you're talking about League of Ireland football, it's highly on anybody else. That's what you'd be thinking, what you'd be hoping, wouldn't you?
Look,
he's got something.
No, and it's just, look, this is an insider knowledge or whatever. I think, like, first and foremost, Darrell has a decision to make himself. Yeah. I would imagine he will have offers over there, and if so, he could probably earn more than what he would earn at the top pairs here if he wants to stay there. So he has to first and foremost want to come back. If he does want to come back, I'd be very surprised if we were the only ones in for him. So there's an element of the, I suppose, you're pulling on heartstrings a little bit. And at that, like, he's 31 in August. So, look, you don't want to write a player off, but he's probably 3-4 years max at it at a decent level. You probably need to be a bit creative with your offer as well, and maybe give him something beyond that in terms of, like, I'm led to believe he's a degree in mathematics or something. Maybe that fits in with stat sports and money.
I like that
throwing
thinking,
things
Reggie.
out there, but like he can, if I think if we can do that, like, he's obviously, look, his wife and dad is from Dundalk, obviously, as most people will know. So that's I believe of a house here. So it ticks a lot of boxes. And obviously I think all fans would love to see him. He would definitely add to that creative spark. I know he's someone that the manager loves. And look, it would be a statement signing from the owners as well, which and I don't mean this to be critical, we probably haven't had that yet, so it does tick a lot of boxes. But look, at this moment in time, the ball is firmly in Darryl's court because he has to want to come home first, and it can be difficult to turn down good offers, which I'm sure you'll have from the UK as well.
I was just when I seen this is, I wasn't going to ask what Ryan O'Kane, but I was going to mention, like, where would you play him, or who do you play him for? Does he stop a Ryan O'Kane? Does he come in and where, like, he is, like you say, he's 31. Does he have the pace that he used to have? Does he play behind the striker? Maybe he probably just come in just as he did back in the day. I would assume you'd assume that left hand flank would be his own, wouldn't it?
Look, he can definitely play there. Like, for me, I don't want to be critical of him because he's had a great career, but it probably hasn't happened for him at club level in a while. He had a really good spell at Hibs, but I think it sums up. He was popular even at Wickham this week. I was looking at some of the online comments, and they were sad to see him go. He was very well thought of Stevenage, where he was obviously on loan in recent months. I don't think it's like, I think a player like Ryan O'Kane can only learn from him, and as we've seen in recent weeks, Ryan can play off both flanks. But like, I could see Darryl with his creativity and brain. I don't see any reason he can't play behind the striker either. Like, I know he played primarily, we know him as a left winger, but like prior to that, he did play on the right at Cork actually, and he, certainly I think could play in that 10. We probably didn't need him there when you look at the, with the likes of Ronan Finn, Patrick McElhenney, Robbie Benson, Jamie McGrath in his previous stint. So a wealth of options there. So I definitely think he could play there. And look, even from set piece delivery, etc., he really adds to you. But like, this is a player who we must remember was coming on for Stephen Kenny for the Republic of Ireland in recent years, and maybe I'm looking at it through rose-tinted glasses, but never let the side down, always added something. And I still think if he ended up back here, hopefully with us, but he'd still be one of the best players in this league.
Yeah, he has that. He still has that raw football ability. That kind of street baller. Before Ryan O'Kane's a very similar type of player. Now, he's probably not that level, but just yet. But yeah, I think Darryl Hogan would excite if you're not a Dundalk fan, if you get back to the league, even if you're a Rovers or a Pats fan, just to see a player like that kind of caliber come back. Like, you hear the rumours of James McLean going to Derry and stuff like that. It'd just be that kind of marquee signing that I think you had the Keith Fahey's back in the day as well, and these players coming back to give something to the league. Damien Duff as well, albeit a very short-lived one at Rovers, but yeah, I think it gives a club like us with the run that we've had, and like a marquee signing, like you say, Reggie. If it's going to be a marquee signing, why not someone like that who's got that, still has that connection with the town? And but like you say, he's got to want it, hasn't he, Chris? That's the main thing about it.
I think that's the main thing. To pull you back into the game tonight, lads. We haven't even talked about the 2 goals yet. We're talking about signing new players. Gally, look, probably the biggest thing that changed in this game for us was, Skip emptying the bench and getting people on. One of them who scores the equaliser, a man we really haven't seen enough of in a Dundalk shirt, in Cammy Elliott. Like, the technique for the goal, like you've got to hand it to him. It's a pressured situation. The clock's ticking, and to attempt like a bicycle kick for it to go in, like it's ballsy by him. We'll give him that.
Yeah, and I think the boys had I missed one earlier on, but the boys had said that Pat Hubin had done 2 bicycle kicks earlier in the game. So
he was mad to get overhead.
I'm going with the Tom O'Connor stat here from last week as well about the 3 different jerseys. How many times has 3 overhead kicks been attempted in the same game? You know, at League of Ireland level, and then one of them eventually goes in. But yeah, look, that's, you know, we 100% haven't seen enough of Cammy Elliott. I mean, you know, didn't really know a lot about him without Googling when he signed. Seemed to have a decent, you know, pedigree for goals where he played in Scotland. But what we kind of knew was that, you know, I'd seen a thread on Twitter, I don't know if you call it a thread, but a couple of comments that he's pacey, he gets at defenders, you know, a bit of injuries, a bit of bad luck. We haven't really seen a lot of him, but, you know, if you're coming off the bench like that, similar to what John Martin's been doing over the last couple of weeks and producing that little bit of magic, you know, that's all you can really ask of these players, you know, coming off the bench, having a look at the game, and just something different from what Pat Hubin was offering. And it's nice to see them both playing. It's nice, you know, we don't have to swap a like for a like. You know, Stevie did literally empty the bench, and it's the first night we've seen him really go for it. And not that they haven't been or trying, but, you know, it's kind of all came together. And yeah, look, delighted. I mean, you could see in Cammy's face and celebration, he was absolutely delighted to get it. Was like an itch he had a scratch getting a goal at Oriel Park in the league. And yeah, what a way to get it. I mean, it's not like a dodgy deflected goal. It's, you know, it's absolutely, you know, it's Titanic music can play behind it if you slow it right down. But it's, yeah, look, it's biblical. Like, that's, you know, just for the night that was in it, and like the history with Cork down the years. And yeah, like I think Flanagan would say that you can get cup tickets, you know, on your part of your season pass with Cork written on them already, because you knew what was going to happen in the cup finals. But yeah, look, it's a fantastic strike, just a bit of ingenious. He probably tries it 100 times in training and doesn't come off at all, and it just works on the night that it works. And look, that's Dundalk have earned that over the last couple of weeks. You know, really some dodgy performance, some bit of bad luck, and yeah, look, I think it's just culminated in the last 10-12 minutes of tonight's match.
Yeah, James, look, the thing they always say about strikers is that, you know, they breed confidence after sticking the ball in the net, and to score such a, you know, magnificent strike like that has to do him the world of confidence, because I'm sure he's itching to really kickstart his Dundalk career, and it just hasn't happened yet, you know, due to injuries and stuff like that. So to come off, have a big impact in a big game like this, it'll have to do him the world of good.
Yeah, like it's December since he had scored, like, and he's probably, look, he is stepping up a level from East Kilbride, and look, admittedly, I think that was only his 7th outing for us tonight, but it's just the monkey off the back now as a striker. I think you just want that first goal, and it was a big one to get. And look, sometimes it can be like buses where, you know, you wouldn't back against them getting another one now quickly after that. But yeah, look, it's another option, and I think it was crucial tonight because, you know, even leaving aside the red cards, I think you know, there was the 3 centre halves tonight, and you're asking any striker. I know Pat's probably the man who can handle that better than most, but it's a difficult ask to find space when you have 3 centre backs marking you. So it just was another body in there, and he found that bit of space. Fantastic finish, must be said, but it just caused him a bit of problems that, you know, we weren't finding that enough. Like, sometimes you get the ball in the box and you're immediately outnumbered, so it's hard to find that. Like you mentioned Alfie Lewis' chance in the first half. It looked for all the world like that was going to be a goal, but they just had bodies over to get the block in. So yeah, having an extra body up there made the difference. And then look, it worked the other way for them, because like Keating and Olabi combined for their goal, and they were a handful of times, no doubt about it. Even Keating had a chance, I think, just before half time himself. So we kind of turned the tables on them and played them at their own game in that regard. So I know some people probably prefer 2 up front in an old school way, but it can definitely have its value at times.
Yeah, look, Ali, I think it's a thing that we were looking for big impact from, you know, players at this time. And, you know, we mentioned Hubin, and, you know, obviously he's the goal scoring record that he wants to get down, but, you know, the composure for the winner. I think James was there, just said, you know, a lesser striker probably, you know, has a lash at it, but, you know, if you actually look at on the replay now, he nearly has a look behind him and realizes it's another Dundalk player coming in, so he has time to chest it and take it down and have a better chance of scoring. Like, and then that just, you know, he's a man for the occasion.
Yeah, and
and he enjoys that.
like you said, most strikers probably put that into the side net and or try and hit it first time or try and, just maybe chase a little bit too far because they haven't got that kind of confidence level. But even just if you even take out just the actual touch for the finish, it's sublime. I mean, the actual just like a little sidestep into the net, absolutely cracking finish from Hubin. And that's what he does. That's why he's going to break that record any day. That's why he's the best. We've probably seen it in Dundalk jersey in our lifetime. Yeah, absolutely top class. And like Flano said, come with the man, come with the hour. And you need players like that. I don't think any other player on the park, with the exception of maybe Keith Ward, probably takes that ball down and finishes it like that. But yeah, like, we all in the last, balance of play, we've definitely earned it. Hubin has 100% earned it. And it's just a sign of what he does and what he brings to the table. It just goes to show the difference in what he does when he's not there. We don't get opportunities that nobody comes into that position. Probably goes out for a goal kick, and excellent. We're running at awards for him. He really is he's head and shoulders above everybody else in the league in that position. 100%.
James, obviously, the big thing for Pat over really the past 2 seasons, and we know, the injury blight that he has had has really put him back on this goal scoring record. He probably thought he'd be way past it now at this record. But for a player like Pat, it's probably good to still have that target and keep that hunger going for him, because he's within touch and distance now, and he must be itching to get back out in the pitch to just finally do this.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt he wants it, but like Pat's amazing. Like, in terms of like Pat still wants to win the league. Like, and that might be scoffed at, but he still has that mentality, and that's massive because. Look, it is a young side. Like, I mean, 2 matches ago we were playing UCD, and Darragh Leahy was the oldest player on the pitch, just turned 25. And you need that sort of, we had it in abundance for years that, a draw was sometimes a crisis in Oriel Park. And just bringing that sort of leadership to it, and that desire to win, and that not settling for, someone said to me maybe 5-6 minutes to go, "Oh, you'd definitely take a point now, wouldn't you?" And he wasn't wrong in theory, but I guarantee you Pat wouldn't have settled for a point at that point. So it's a brilliant mindset to have in many ways. He wants to be the best and still has that desire to win things, and you need that. It's almost like Roy Keane-esque in terms of the way he drives a team and a dressing room, and that's the way he leads. That's why he's captain. It's not like there's different styles of captaincy, but that's what he brings to the table. And we're very lucky that maybe that record was brought to light a few years ago, because he it's probably had a massive look. He's happy in Dundalk too. He's probably made the town his home. I don't think he's still technically from Galway, but he's been probably living here most of his adult life. So we're going to claim him at this stage. But yeah, look, when he breaks the record, because I think it's only a matter of time, it's well deserved, because we've been spoiled by some brilliant strikers over the years, but he's going to be right up there. And it's the nature of the goals he scores too. They're very rarely the third or fourth in an easy win or something like that. His record, I broke it down before, I just don't have it to hand, but his record of scoring first for Dundalk in matches is incredible. Is the likes of tonight, and many times has he done it. Reflecting back on previous sort of big injury time winners, there was 2 against Bows in 2019 at a time we weren't playing well, but it got us going. And as much as I said earlier, the performances are far from perfect at the moment, but they can light something within a side. And look, we're not going to sit here and pretend that the last 4 matches we were, Real Madrid or something. We weren't, but it's a start to be 4 from 4. And in a mad scenario, if you can go to Derry on Monday and win, you've Bows and Oriel next week where you could go level on points with them, and they were 11 points clear from me a few weeks ago. So it's such a such a quick turnaround.
It's
Like
been
that might have
crazy.
actually changed tonight. I think we can go ahead of Bulls actually,
Yeah,
because
it's been a
Yeah.
crazy
they lost
season.
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gally, I'm going to have to jump because LOI TV never stops. I have to pick up some camera gear off someone off the M1, lads.
Isn't it well
So,
for you?
Yeah, it's great.
Are you going to give us your man of the match? We're going to get stuck into the man of the match now before.
Yes, I'll let you tip onto
match.
that. For me, and James just kind of waxed lyrical about him there now. I just think Hooben has just been such an influence coming back into this team. If nothing else, like Mark Carolyn's comments there, on our first goal, pat straight to the bench. How much time's left? Let's keep this going, and he's barking orders at lads all over the pitch, and he's trying to, make sure that the high levels that we expect at Dundalk Football Club are adhered to. And it's only when you've got experience like him around, I think, that you really get the benefit. And James, you've probably said it enough on your own pod and stuff like that as well. Whenever Pat does leave, one way or the other, if it's just through retirement or to another club, we'll sit back and we'll think, wow, what a player, Pat Hooben was for this club. And I just think that that should never be taken too lightly for it. And I just think tonight just proved another reason why not only his goal scoring record, but just the player that Pat is and the captain he is, how pivotal he's become to this team. So yeah, absolutely. For me, it's Pat as well. And on that point, lads, I've got cameras to pick up.
Chris, thank you very much.
No problem. Cheers.
Enjoy, Chris.
I think going on the comments, I think we don't have a massive. Chris, just bring yourself back in whatever you want there, brother. When you've got the comments coming in, I think the obvious thing, like, people, Rhino Kane had a good game, but I just go to yourself, Reggie, for man of the match. Like, you might look at it differently. I think we've probably given it more pizzas over the last, since we started this podcast. I think for Pat Hooben, Nathan Shepherd and Craig Slogan, I don't think there's many that have come very close to getting the amount of pizzas these lads got. But for your man of the match tonight, what are you thinking?
I think it has to be Pat. I think Ryan did well in patches, but for the night that was in it, it could only be one man. Like the what he brings to that team is incredible. I referenced it last week. He probably didn't have his best game in Sligo, but just his sheer presence in the box for me created the space for Wardy to get the header. And it's like, even when he's not at his brilliant best, I suppose he sets high standards, he's still an absolute nuisance, and he still, makes us tick and gets us going. And look, where would we be without him? He, I even seen there he was tweeting, he dedicated the winner tonight to Morris Coffey, who obviously passed away last week. Like, he's just a great all-round ambassador. Like, he does a lot of work for charity as well, I think, which people maybe don't always realize. He doesn't necessarily look for the plaudits for it, but just such a great ambassador for the club. And look, he deserves moments like that, because by all intents and purposes, like, chatting to teammates of his, he's not the happiest of teammates when he's not on the score sheet or whatever. So if he can leave Oriel with a smile on his face tonight, I think he deserves that. He was the difference maker in the end, and if you wanted that chance falling to anyone, it was him.
Yeah, I think I echo yourself and Chris. I can't really see. It's probably the first night where I don't really see another name but Pat Hooben. Like you said, he's one of the people. He's not like, it's not like he's come in for a couple of years and kind of travels up and down, and from his hometown, or up and down from Dublin up the M1. He's engrossed in Dundalk, and he's kind of, you forget that he's not actually from Dundalk. He's been playing with us that long, albeit in 2 stints, and like you said, dedicating that to Mo Coffey tonight. The record that he has, the record he's going to break, we probably won't see the likes of it again. I mean, I think he's, if we're even just, I know we're only giving away a pizza here for man of the match, but if you take him as a complete footballer, I don't think I've seen anybody as dominant as him in that position in any club in League of Ireland. I mean, you're going back to the likes of maybe Jason Bourne, or Stephen Gagan. That's the kind of level we're talking about when it comes to League of Ireland players. And, the least we can do is give out a pizza to someone for picking a man of the match. But he's absolutely, he's head and shoulders. I said it already. He is absolutely head and shoulders above. God forbid the day he retires, because I don't know how, or I don't even know how you would even train someone to be that clinical and that dedicated and that kind of. He's got that level of beast in him that not many players possess. And I mentioned early on in the season that Pats had obviously got Owen Doyle back in, and Owen Doyle was one of the best that we'd seen, as a decent poacher of a ball, but he's not on the same planet as Pat Hooban. And it didn't work for Pat when he went abroad, but I just think he's, you can just see the list around the people rounding off his name tonight from man of the match. He really is he's cut from a different cloth, I think. I think he's absolutely, but now you would obviously know him better interviewing him, but he's just engrossed in everything that the town does over the last probably decade, hasn't he?
Yeah, look, he gets it.
Yeah,
he gets it. Like he's lived here, like as I say, most of his adult life. He must have been a teenager coming here, or maybe just gone
pretty
20.
close, yeah.
And even I remember when he did depart, he used to be regularly back at games, particularly during the summer. I think he came back to Russell's for the Euro 2016 to watch games, in the beer garden and stuff like that with his mates, because like that's where he's made his life here, and he understands this town like any of us would, that grew up here, and just a fantastic ambassador, because you talk about things like about being a community club. He really gets it, really gets it. But for me, and I remember making this point to someone a few weeks ago, and like, he's the nearest thing to like a Harry Kane type for me, in that even when he's not scoring, he's still liable to do something that'll turn a game for you. Like he can do both. He's nearly your best creator and also your best finisher. And for me, no one touches him in the league in terms of what he can do. He'll deserve that. And look, when the record is broken, and I think we can safely say when now, I don't think it'll ever be touched, for the simple reason. I think if someone comes along and, a 19, 20-year-old striker, if they come anywhere near good numbers of double figures, I think they'll be snapped and taken away.
Yeah,
you've seen it with someone like Aidan Keena at Derry last season. He had a good year, gone. Georgie Kelly, gone. And look, that was always a possibility, but I think with Brexit now and the fact that it has gone full time, and maybe the League of Ireland in the past, like going back 20, 30 years ago, was seen as a bit of an amateur league compared to, say, England or whatever. But I don't think that's necessarily the case now, because it's full time, because these lads, it's less of maybe a step up than it used to be in terms of, that they're signing young fellas now at pretty much when they turn 18 from the league. So for someone to come in, if someone might come in and have a brilliant year, maybe a brilliant 2 seasons, but I think it's going to be very hard for anyone, just purely on the way football has gone, to put, because it's going to take you guts of 10 seasons to get anywhere near it. And he's not. Look, when he beats it, it's how much he adds to it then. Because
that's it,
I'd like to think he should beat it this year, and he definitely has a contract for next year. We know that. So, and
even a player to get that longevity is just going to be, it's unheard of. I know he's had 2 stints, but even if you take that, you're right. It's for a player to come in and even attempt to play in League of Ireland for the one club for that length of time and score at that rate, it's near impossible.
Yeah, because like tonight, for example, I think he's something like 51 league goals past the nearest to him. Obviously in maybe in years gone by, when the likes of Joey Donnelly was playing, there was less league matches and more in subsidiary competitions such as like the Shield and stuff like that. But he's just completely dominant in terms of the league goals. So I just don't think it'll ever be touched. Certainly not in my lifetime. And I'd like to think I have a lot of more years in the tank. But it's just that, if someone at all comes along, be it homegrown talent or whatever, and has anywhere near, like I'd say, if you come in now at 21 years of age and score 15 goals in this league, you're gone. Yeah, you're gone. No, not a chance. Because at any level of football, and you see it even with like I know you'd have a grow for Man United. Like, finding a goal scorer, it's the hardest thing in the world. Like, and when you get one, you know, there's good defenders out there, there's good midfielders, good wingers, etc. But scoring goals at the highest level, or any level of football, it's the hardest thing ever. You look at even the League of Ireland, like, it's not a league that people regularly get, say, 20 goals a season in. You know, so it's so hard to do. And even Pat, he's done it obviously in the past, but like he'd be doing well to get anywhere near sort of 20 goals this season. But just his level of consistency, you know, I think in this era, this sort of last decade or so, I don't think anyone can touch him in terms of, you know, if you say the best striker of his generation, I think he has to be. Yeah,
he's got to be. And I know what we go when Pat Hoobin gets mentioned in this podcast, we seem to go off. We nearly forgot to give away the pizza after all that. So David Moore, well done. If you contact Vinny and Tony's Pizzeria, you'll get your pizza. Order it before the next game, but it wouldn't have to be Monday. It'll have to be the Friday night, so you don't have to necessarily order before Monday night. So well done, David. Reggie, just before we say goodbye, just on the next, you know, we've Derry on Monday night, we've Bows on Friday night. So we kind of spoke a couple of weeks ago when we had the long week. We the week 2 weekend games on the Friday and the Monday. This is probably as big, especially after tonight's match. How do you see the next, in particular Derry away, but how do you see the next two games going, or what could you hope to look for points wise and performance wise?
I think you want to see a performance, don't you? Like, we've had victories, maybe like even last week. You go back to the Sligo match. I know we won it. We were all delighted we won it, but like Max Maddock could have probably had 4 goals on a different night. You know, it really could have. Now, listen, we could have maybe scored 1 or 2 more ourselves, but it was one of those. You know, it could have went either way. I'd like to see a decent display, because particularly the last time we were up there, we didn't lay a glove on them. Like, we got a 0-0 up there, but it was poor. From an offensive point of view. So at some point you need to, like, as much as this recent run 4-4 is great, you need to back it up with decent displays. You need something to click and build on it and all that. And you know, they're the team 3 points ahead of us. So what better incentive do you need? And it's a good one too, because we have a really good record against Derry. They haven't won in the last 6 against us. We won twice up there last year. I don't think the Brandywell suits them. I've seen them enough up there. Like, they're actually 7th in the home league table, just 8 points from 7 matches.
Wow.
Whereas they've 20 points out of a possible 24 on the road. So it doesn't suit them coming away or actually playing in their own patch. And even they're not in great form either. I know they've a couple of players. I know Cammy Dummigan come off the bench tonight, but you know, 1-0 up against a 10-man Bows, you expected them to kick on and maybe win that comfortably. They didn't. Now look, they got the job done like ourselves, fair play, but I don't think it's a venue that should scare us, you know, because we've such a good record up there in general that I don't think there'd be a lot in it, and it would be a real maybe statement win if we could go there and get something, you know, because that was one that sort of I think it was the 20th of May last year. We got our first away win of the season up there. We won 2-1, right. And that was what really sort of, for me anyway, kick-started you know, maybe this is going somewhere, you know, and again, after winning tonight, we the same number of points after 15 matches as we had after 15 matches last year. So it's a decent place to be in, all right, but you know, at some point you can't keep relying on little rallies or whatever. You need to make that statement, and what better time than Monday, because you know, realistic about it, I think most Dundalk fans would take a European qualification again come the end of the year, and you can't look at it yet, but with one eye on Friday night. My fear a couple of weeks ago was that, you know, I think Bows were 11 points clear of us, and you're thinking, you know, 3rd, 4th, you know, is it going to be there for us? But if we could reel in Bows, that's you know, even by the break, and be level or ahead of them, you know, that would have to constitute a decent place in terms of, because the break's not that far away now either.
Yeah, and I think even like a result in Derry, whether it be a win, you're looking for a performance is right up there, but avoiding defeat and then taking that, to Oriel Park against Bows. If Bows are watching in on that, they know you're, like you say, they're so many points ahead of us. To be able to bring them back in before the break, or the highest of highs, you'd be looking for a win Monday night, and then if you could turn over Bows on Friday night, I mean, that's been an incredible 7 days of football. When you consider the performances over the last couple of weeks. Now, look, it could be pie in the sky stuff, but I mean, I definitely agree with you on especially on the surface in Derry. It should suit Dundalk, because what we're used to playing on that, and that kind of I was going to say grass, that kind of that artificial. I don't know what the word to put it is. I think it's terrible. But look, like you said, Derry are really poor at home. So I think they're there to be taken advantage of. And I think hopefully we can bring that into Bows then, and just not do what we normally do, have a massive way when they bring it back, and it's a real dull performance at Oriel Park. Like, would you take, what we always thought when there's a double header of matches, you always say like, you look for 4 points, but you'd really be looking for 6. I mean, that's what if you're going to be competing and keeping these for Europe, you're kind of looking for 6, but you're hoping for, you take 4 and cracking performance. But I mean, you got to be going out there looking to maybe turn both of them over, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't think either game are ones that you should necessarily fear. Like, the record in Derry makes it. Look, I think 4 points would be exceptional. Because it's like the one thing I will say about Monday's game is Bows don't play on Monday. It's only the 4 European clubs in action against each other, so they're rested up now. Obviously Grant Horton will be suspended after his red card tonight, but like they've all week to prepare for that. I'm sure Declan Devine, being a Derry man, will take the opportunity to go home on Monday and take in that game and have a look at us. So they've a better week in terms of prep, and look, even tonight it has to be taxing on the energy reserves going till the 98th minute or whatever it was. But like that, when you're winning, it's a little bit easier, isn't it? So that's keep the momentum going. Like, ultimately it's all like we probably are all guilty of over analyzing games at times. Results are ultimately what matter. I just don't think you can keep getting away with being poor and giving up chances the way we have, and maybe always getting the win. So at some point we need to produce that sort of perfect display where we, shut a team out and unlock them as well. And it's a tricky run coming up, because I know after Bows, I think there's a Pats we have on the horizon away from home as well. So it's it's kind of like a sort of, not season defining, because it's too soon to say that, but it kind of, these next 4 games will sort of determine, are you in a title race? Because you technically win all 4, you are. Are you sort of, definitely in a European race? Are you, looking over your shoulder again the other way? So that just in a mini block, coming up before the break, it's a difficult run on paper, but if you could keep that sort of bit of momentum going, because it's been a very inconsistent league on the whole, and if anyone can show a level of consistency, well, you'd be amazed where it could take you.
That's it. I think it's been that. I think somebody tweeted tonight. It's just an absolute crazy league. Like, even looking at who's top of the table, and we said it before. Bows are putting that little spanner in the works because nobody was really expecting to be up that high. And I think you're hoping for the next couple of games, like you said, we've got Pats, and then it's Pats away, then Rovers away. So there's a tough old slog coming up. But I mean, if they can come through that without any major, you don't want to beat them. But I mean, even a close defeat against one of them wouldn't be the worst thing in the planet. But if you can pick up, decent points, you're definitely right up there. Like, it's a massive change from even a month ago, and you're definitely right in there in the running, aren't you?
Yeah, and you'd like to think it's only going to get better with 2. Look, even Daniel Kelly and Cameron Elliott getting on the pitch tonight, we looked a little bit stronger in terms of options off the bench. Paul Doyle's getting there. Like, I think I said, we probably lacked that sort of defensive midfielder. I think he's probably the best equipped of anyone to maybe do it. I think Stephen O'Donnell noted tonight, it's the Longford FAI Cup tie last July was his last 90 minutes for Dundalk. So if he can keep progressing and get ready, like the issue we have is you seem to get one back and lose one. Like Rayhan Tulloch, I think was his groin tonight.
Yeah,
very unlikely we'll see him come Monday as a result. And Robbie Benson's gone for a while, but look, if you can get Andy Boyle back and Greg Sloggett, and I don't think Louis Ansley's too far behind them either. So it's they can only strengthen you, you know. And if we can just get to that point where we probably never get everyone fully fit, but if you can get to a point where you're bringing in players like that, and you're still in a good place, it sets you up nicely for, realistically Europe and hopefully a good sort of second half of the season after the break. But before the break, I think, it's a very tricky run, and 4 matches, 12 points. Like if you could even 8 out of that would be probably outstanding, and leave you in a really, really good spot.
Yeah. I think we're probably coming up to the most vital part of the season. I think you're right. And so far this season, if we can get a couple of games, look, I know the comments are coming in, they're very positive, and we can't show them all, get them all up, unfortunately. But look, we're hoping for, after tonight's little mini match at the end of the game, we're hoping for a little bit of run on Thursday night or on Monday night up in Derry. Reggie, really appreciate you coming on. Folks, thanks for your comments. Reminder that David Moore, you've won your pizza for Pat Hubin's Man of the Match for Tony's Pizzeria. Give them a shout. Thanks to Dundalk Village for our sponsors. Thanks to Player Fit for the fantastic clobber that we have. For Tony's Pizzeria for doing our Man of the Match. James Rogers from the Press Box podcast. Really appreciate it. Folks, until Monday night, come on to town.